So to start things off, can you tell me a little bit about your hometown?
Well, my hometown is Spartanburg, South Carolina. It's Atlanta, Georgia. My dad's come out of Atlanta in Stockbridge, Georgia, who was Daddy King's baby brother, Dr. King's father. And my father was raised by Daddy King.
So did you have any family members that were a major role model for you?
My dad and Daddy King, technically, after Martin got killed, and Daddy King, Coretta, my father, who walked with Dr. King, but they always lock him in the hotel room because he wasn't a nonviolent one.
Were there any events in your childhood that had a significant impact on who you are today?
Oh, yeah, it's the one I shared on the stage this evening. It was when, 1968 when the police brutality happened, case in Spartanburg, where he beat my friend and his girlfriend that so much that she lost the baby. And I led my first protest at 17 at that time.
And I know that you became a pastor and obviously now a reverend. Why did you become a pastor?
Well, I fought it for years, but God called me to be a preacher, and preachers in my family, from grandfather, great-grandfather, daddy. And so here I am now trying to carry on God's word through preaching in the ministry.
What church did you first start at?
I started in Mansfield, Ohio. I did pastor there, moved from there to Columbus to the Union Grove Baptist Church on Fairday Hill, who was also a state representative as well as a pastor. And now I'm at Bishop Donald Washington Church, Mount Hermon in Columbus.
How did you get the title of reverend?
Well, that's through training, being ordained in your Christian ministry from the faith you're in. My dad ordained me in 71, came back and licensed me in 71, ordained me in 73. And I was called in 83 to my own church in Urbana, Ohio, the Jerusalem Second Baptist Church in Urbana.
What does being a reverend mean to you?
Spreading God's word to God's people, hoping to give them strength and hope for the future.
Did you ever get to meet your cousin, Martin Luther King Jr.?
Unfortunately, I didn't have that privilege. I missed him. I was 17 years old the day he got killed. And I always had the desire, but never did. But we got close with Coretta, his wife, and the children now. And even Dexter just passed this week.
Was he part of the reason that you became a civil rights activist?
Somewhat. Between him, my father, and his father, yes.
Can you tell me about some of the things that you did to advocate for civil rights and peace?
I'm still activating it now, make sure people vote, register to vote, be involved in the community, not only at the presidential level, but at the local level, even to the dog catcher. Because you may not like the dog catcher, because he might catch your dog.
Can you tell me any memories that stand out to you when you reflect on your time being a civil rights activist?
Well, the memories again was the march I shared when I was 17, the 63 march with Dr. King, I Have a Dream in Washington. Then even the day we went to the 60th anniversary of that march, Greg and I went to the 60th anniversary of that march, so those are great memories that I have personally.
So I read that Martin Luther King Jr. actually met with Harry Belafonte, and he even participated in marches with Dr. King. Did you ever get to meet with Harry Belafonte?
I didn't personally, but I know about the history of what happened there. Harry Belafonte took out the insurance policy on Dr. King before he was killed, so his family could be secure financially upon his death. So that's why he stayed so close to the family. But he paid for the funeral and for the insurance policy up to his death.
Now, not only did Harry Belafonte march with Dr. King, but he also donated a lot of money from his concerts to the civil rights cause.
Yeah.
He was often referred to as the liaison between civil rights and Hollywood. What do you think is the benefit of having big names like Harry Belafonte
Money.
helping out the civil rights activists?
Money at the time, because in the 60s there wasn't no money. And nobody didn't like Dr. King's successful movement, through the civil rights movement, but they had to get money to get the people out of jail. He went to Hollywood. Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier, all of them came behind him, and they were on the march in Alabama, in the march of '65. They were behind financing all the people that went to jail to pay for them to get out of jail. They had to have that money.
What keeps you advocating for peace to this day?
Unfortunately, the society that we live in is getting so crazy now. It makes you want to be active for something. And this world needs to change to where it's heading now.
Speaking of the world needing to change, it's my generation's turn to take over and run the world. How can we make the world a better place?
Now, one, make your news newsworthy. news truthfully, and make sure it gets out to the public that needs to be getting out to. Everybody don't go through his own, and they're on the phone now, so you got to use that method to get to the next generation. And your generation got to do that.
How do you want to be remembered?
As a peace-loving individual, a good preacher could preach, can preach, to preach.
And is there anything more that you'd like to share with me today?
That you keep on keeping your work, influence young people your age around to do better what they are doing, get their education, get their history, get to school, and help make this world different than what we see it right now. God bless you.
To get started, can you tell me a little bit about your childhood?
As a child,
Oh, you can.
I'm sorry. As a child, I
it's
was
okay.
raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. Um, my parents, my father had a third grade education. My mother worked to clean houses. It was three of us at home, four of us at home, and then we had three siblings that lived in Alabama with my grandmother. So I had a normal childhood. It was a poor family, but our parents helped us. We survived. We did well with what we had.
Do you think that the way you were raised had an effect on who you are today?
Yes, it had a definite effect on how I was raised. Like I said before, my father he only had a third grade education. My mother used to clean houses for the rich families, and they preached education and they preached peace and nonviolence as a kid growing up. So, yes, I had a strong education. Actually, in our community, our family was privileged to have individuals around us that looked up to us. Not that we wanted them to look up to us, but it was the way that we were raised in our home that made a difference in our community.
Who in your childhood was your biggest influence?
I think my parents was my biggest influence. I did not get to meet my cousin Coretta until I was much older, and then that inspired me too to do the things that I started doing later on in life. But my best influence was my parents because they taught love, they taught peace, and spirituality. We were in church every chance we got, and then programs through the church. So it helped us to grow stronger into being the person I am today.
Can you tell me the first time that you advocated for civil rights?
Probably at an early age. The community that I lived in, it was kind of infested with violence and crime. So as a child, I did not participate in those things. As a matter of fact, I consider myself a spokesman to my friends to try to tell them we need to do this. We don't have to do what other people do. And so I learned to practice what I preach as a child. And again, my parents instilled in us to do the right thing. So doing the right thing meant not being violent toward each other, but loving everybody that we came in contact with.
Reflecting on your time advocating for civil rights, do you have any memories that stand out to you?
Oh yeah, I have several. One of the first ones, and I said it on the stage, is I was driving my car. This was in 1976, and this was in Cincinnati. And I was driving, and the police officer pulled me over and said, "Hey boy, where did you get this car from? Your mama food stamps." So of course I learned how to be non-confrontational. So I learned that early, and I knew how to talk with individuals of authority. So I learned that early too.
Can you tell me about another time that you experienced racism?
Yeah, going into the store just to buy candy or anything like that. And that's even at, I'm age 65 now, so even ongoing. You go to the store, people walk around to see if you're going to steal anything. I'm like, they're not walking around looking at anybody else, so they single you out. And so those are the things that, I mean, as a child and even today, the police will turn around and follow me as I'm driving. and for no reason at all. So it makes you nervous that you're being singled out. So it's just something that happened back then and today.
So up on stage, I remember you talking about how when you were a child and a teenager, you were taught that if you see a white woman on the street, you would cross the street and you wouldn't make eye contact with her, you wouldn't speak to her.
No.
How did that make you feel knowing that you could not talk to somebody because they were a different skin color than you?
Well, I think as an early age, when that happened in Alabama, in Greensboro, Alabama, when I go visit my grandmother, it made me feel sad that I cannot say hello to somebody, and so it was heartening to know that there are individuals in this world that because of the color of my skin, I can't say anything to them, and even today, I can't live anywhere in this country that I want to live if I choose to live, even in Ohio. There are certain counties that I would not be accepted in, and I know that, and I know how to protect myself, and I've learned to pick and choose my battle.
Why is it so important to learn about peace?
Because there's a song that says, "Let there be peace on earth and let it begins with me." And that's something that as a child, those are the things that I learned early on. And then when we would go to our family reunions with cousin Coretta and the family, our family is huge. But when we would get together, that's what we talked about, is how to deal with peace in this world. But we looked at it and I love to look at it on the micro level. My community, I have to learn how to get along with individuals. I don't care who they are. I had to learn to get along with individuals, and that peace starts with me. It starts with my children. It started with my parents back in those days, and it's continuing on with my grandchildren, my 14 grandkids.
Is there anything else that you would like to add to this?
I think this entire program that we have been in this whole weekend thus far has been tremendous. Just being able to share uh, how we've come, and we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Dr. King talked about the peace, the nonviolence. We have kids stealing cars. We have people walking up to, we talked about the hand, being able to open up the hand. We have to learn how to communicate with each other. And that's one of the things that I've instilled as 40 years of a social worker, retired, still a little working, is how do we communicate? I think if we learn how to communicate with one another, in my house, your house, and everybody's house, all of our neighbors, I think that would be a start. So sometimes it's just individual. And I think that starts with me.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. I appreciate it.
Thank you.